have a question for you. What kind of a leader are you? If leadership was a ladder, what rung on the ladder are you? Now, I'll explain that here in a minute. But I want you to know, just up front, before we kind of get into this little video here, I want you to know, I want you to be just completely aware that the chief leader in your life, the number one leader in your life, is actually always you. I was having a conversation with somebody a long time ago, and they were very, religious in that sense. And their answer, if I would have asked them, who's the greatest leader in your life, they would say, "Oh, God is my leader. God is the greatest leader in my life." And I'm just here to tell you that that's factually incorrect for anybody. It doesn't matter what your belief system is. Some people may say, honestly, my boss and my profession, they kind of calls all the shots in my life. Some people may say to my spouse. Some people may say all kinds of things, right? The government or whatever is the leader or the greatest leader or the strongest leader in my life that affects my life. And the answer to that is just no. That's just false. If let's go back to that religious idea or construct, right? That God is the chief leader in your life. It's never the case, and the reason for that is because if you decide to make God the leader in your life, who's deciding to make God the leader in your life, right? Doesn't it have to be you, right? Of course, that's obvious. It's common sense. Whoever you make in charge of your life, or whoever you outsource your sense of leadership to, is actually your decision. You are the one making that decision. So that means you are the X factor. That means you are the one that calls all the shots for your life. That means you are leading your life, right? You're the chief leader of your life, and your life determines the decisions you make determine the kind of life you experience. So there's no one else leading your life other than you. The question is, are you leading it consciously? Now, leadership, believe it or not, it's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of leadership. It's kind of a ladder. I would like to use the ladder analogy for a few minutes if I could, right? A ladder analogy, right? There's rungs on a ladder. There's lower rungs and there's higher rungs, okay? And we all have these rungs on the ladder. Now, this ladder is a metaphor in many ways of our consciousness. It's a metaphor for our energy system. There's a lot more I could say about that. That would be an entirely different video. But leadership's it's like a ladder. You are the number one leader in your life. You're calling all the shots, and your perspective is coming from your leadership perspective for you in your life and everybody that you interact with. That perspective is coming from a certain rung on the ladder. Now let me explain what I mean by that. This ladder, okay? Let's look at the bottom rung of the ladder. The bottom rung, and when I say bottom rung, I don't mean because it's not as good or there's something wrong with it. I don't mean that. It's just there's an order to it. It's also corresponds to the order of your energy system in your body. The bottom rung of the leadership ladder, if you will, if I can use that analogy, is really just the bottom rung is basically just it's concerned with survival. It's concerned with making sure you're going to be okay. It's making sure that all your basic needs are met. It's all concerned with basic just survival and being safe and being secure and grounded, right? And that's the bottom rung of the leadership ladder, right? And people who are primarily operating from that bottom rung in their own life and in the things they're doing, maybe professionally or in their relationships, they have one, even this is not conscious, this is mostly unconscious, but they have really one goal in mind, that is to be safe. That my world doesn't get disrupted, that I'm safe, that my position may be safe, that I'm going to be okay, that I'm going to survive. I mean, that is the bottom rung of the leadership ladder, so to speak. And there are people who hold high positions of leadership, maybe in a corporation, maybe in a government. And if that's where you're coming from on that, your goal is going to be safety, security, preservation, self-preservation, preservation of yourself. And typically that will whatever gets in the way of that will become an obstacle or seen as a threat. Okay? But that's the primary goal of people who are leading on the bottom rung of the leadership ladder. So you watching this video, we all have that rung on the ladder. Safety, security, it's important to all of us. But the question is, are you operating primarily from that place? Many of us are, okay? And that creates a bit of tension, but that's the bottom rung. The next rung up, right, on the leadership ladder is really more about expanding your territory. It's a lot of times it's about pleasure. It's about seeking high experiences that feel good, that bring a lot of joy or pleasure to your life. I mean, that's the next rung up on the ladder, so to speak, right? And so folks who operate from that rung on the ladder, I mean, they're doing things because they want to expand, they want to grow, they want to not grow as a human being, but grow in their sense of control. They also want to have high experiences where they're just, a lot of it's about pleasure, a lot of it's about having fun, things that feel good. It's just, that's the next step up on the leadership ladder, okay? And people who operate primarily on that level are making decisions based upon enjoyment, based upon fun, based upon wanting to escape sometimes the mundane rat race of survival, right? So that's the next rung up on the leadership ladder. And people who live in that place or operate from that place, they conduct relationships from that place, they conduct business from that place, will typically bring people in, and when they're done with them, they will discard them because they no longer serve that need of enjoyment or pleasure or advancement in some way, okay? That's the next rung up on the leadership ladder. Next rung up on the leadership ladder is more about proving yourself. It's about self-worth. It's about trying to make sure people know how significant you are, how amazing you are, how talented you are, right? And if you operate primarily from that place, the motivation for your work, the motivation for your relationships, the motivation for so many things in your life will be about proving yourself and demonstrating your power, demonstrating your significance to the world, because that's a strong desire and need that you have, okay? Now, all of us are leading our lives, right? Many of us are like, to recap, many of us are leading from this place of insecurity and just wanting to be safe. And so all the motivation, everything we do, all the relationships we have is all about securing our position of safety and power. Next rung up after that is pleasure seeking and wanting to advance and increase your territory, so to speak. And that's the next rung up, and people will serve those needs. Next rung up is all about your significance. It's all about proving yourself and the fact that you're valuable and worth it and talented, right? Those are the bottom three rungs of the leadership ladder, so to speak, if we're using that analogy. There's more, though, and that's the good news. There's actually more. Next rung up on the leadership ladder is all about love, inclusion, healing, doing what's needed to bring people in to a place of wholeness and healing. It's definitely service-based, right? It's the next rung up on the leadership ladder. Next rung up is about justice. It's about correcting or reforming that which is not in alignment with service and love and some of these higher values in life. It's about justice, correction, healing. The next rung up on the leadership ladder is about wisdom. It's about providing insight and guidance where it's needed. So do you notice the difference in the next three that I talked about, right? Unlike the first three is all about you, right? It's quote unquote selfish in that sense. The bottom three is all about, I don't say there's nothing wrong with wanting to be safe, wanting to enjoy life and have fun and seek pleasure or even to prove yourself and to show people that you're significant. There's nothing wrong with wanting to feel significant. But these three, if you just operate from those bottom three, you will not actually conduct your relationships, your work in the world from a place of love and service. It'll be self-seeking. Those folks tend to become tyrannical or corrupt in some ways if you're in a position of leadership, right? That's what people typically refer to as corrupt leadership, or people who are just out for themselves. Unfortunately, a lot of the folks that we've had in leadership in our country they operate from those bottom rungs. You can see it. A lot of folks in corporations operate from those bottom rungs, but in relationships, in life itself, many folks are operating from those bottom rungs. Again, the bottom rungs are important. I'm not trying to say that they're bad, but there's just more to being human than those things, right? Those bottom three largely can be found in the animal world, right? But where we transition from the animal world into the possibilities of being a human is when we get into the top rungs, right? The rungs that are about love, acceptance, healing, justice, wisdom. Those are the upper rungs of the leadership ladder. Where are you? My question for you is, where are you on this ladder, right? Where are you leading from? Now, it's a spectrum, right? Some days we may find ourselves on the bottom rungs, not feeling safe, wanting to make sure we're okay, wanting to make sure we're heard, that people value us, and make sure that we're significant. Or are you on the upper rungs, where it's not about you? It's not about proving your worth or making sure you're safe or having this sense of pleasure, but it's about service. It's about love and acceptance of other people. It's about justice. It's about wisdom and providing wisdom where it's needed. And taking actions from that place, right? Where are you on this ladder, typically? Now, if you operate from a mindset of lack, poverty, be it financial poverty, relational poverty, it doesn't matter. Poverty is poverty, a sense of lack. Lack is just simply a perception that which I need, I don't have, I need to go get it. If you operate from a disposition of lack, you will be on those bottom three rungs of the leadership ladder. You will tend to make everything about you. That's a hard way to live. I'm actually here to help people break out of that, because there's more to being human than simply seeking pleasure for pleasure's sake or entertainment's sake. There's more to being human than just trying to be safe and survive. There's more to being human than just trying to prove yourself through these rat race kind of activities to convince people that you're somebody when you're already somebody, right? There's more to being human than that. I wrote a book in 2019 called Living for a Living, and it's really about the poverty mindset, the lack mindset. There's so much in that book. It's a small book. It's very easy to read, but there's a lot in it. As a matter of fact, this is the time of year, as we're wrapping up a year and heading into a new year, I really feel compelled to get some of these concepts in the hands of people. So what I've done as a gift from me to you, kind of you consider it an early Christmas gift, what I've done is I'm giving away one of the most important chapters in that book for free. And I would love for you to have one of those chapters. It's actually, I've made it available to you. If you just go to my website, so wherever you're watching this from, go to my website, which is jamaljavanji.com. There will be a little box that pops up once you're on the site for a little bit, and it'll say receive a free chapter of Living for a Living. And you can just put click that button and it'll get that, and that free chapter will come to your inbox. Or at the top of the website, if you go to jamaljavanji.com, right at the top, you'll see a little banner that says get your free copy or free chapter of Living for a Living. If you'll just do that, you'll have one of those chapters. That way you can read the chapter. It really addresses this mindset of lack, but it could also give you some insight as to whether you would like the rest of the book. Maybe you want to buy this book for yourself or for somebody else. It's a game changer. Obviously, I'm biased, but I believe in this very strongly. I'm very, very much aware that we need leadership. We all are the number one leaders in our lives. There's no greater leader than you, especially for your life. And we need to be leading from the upper rungs, not the lower. Okay? Hope that's helpful for you. Talk to you soon.